Hi, I'm a woman on a post-apocalyptic environment desert TV show, and I have the smoothest armpits you've ever seen. Well, hi, I'm a woman in medieval times who has perfect eyebrows and no leg hair. Well, hello, I'm a Viking woman in a movie, and I have a thin and trim waist, a huge rack, and perfect eyeliner. It's nice to meet you all. I'm a woman in a world with no power, and I wake up with perfectly curled hair. So I have made a lot of jokes about men writing women, and yes, it's bad. But let's not forget one of the worst examples was written by a woman. I honestly can't even bring myself to quote this. So I've always been a big believer in educate yourself in the things that you hate, so here we go. Rowling's trans-hating new book goes under the pen name Robert Galbraith. This wasn't a made-up name. Robert Galbraith was a scientist in the 40s and 50s that specialized in gay conversion therapy. He would force gay men under legal duress and perform experiments on them. Up to, including, and past shock therapy. He literally fried homosexual brains. He also performed cannabis tests. To support his claim that marijuana was complex with a persisting effect, he would force his patients to smoke the equivalent of one whole cigarette for 5 days a week for up to 6 months. He would then force his gay patients to have sex with prostitutes, then claim that he successfully converted them. So if you really think this turf trash chose this name by accident, I have now educated you. No, she didn't. Also, there's no such thing as a woman's coat. It's just a coat. Clothing is clothing. It doesn't have a specific gender, nor does it belong to a specific gender. And the book was written purely reactionary to all of the hate she's been getting for being transphobic. So for someone who has gone on record saying that trans women are just men in women's clothing, it's a little suspect to see that she's written a book about a man who wears women's clothing that only kills women. I don't have to read a hateful novel to know when someone's trying to cling to her dwindling success by latching onto the train of transphobic hatred. If you want to read her stuff, that's fine. But don't come at me like she's innocent. You know, they said if we didn't like the content to make our own. So we did. Now they're pissed there's so much gay shit. Excuse you, I am one of them. I am one of the gays. These old people ask who wants to see the gay content? Me. I want to see the gay content. The good gay content. Now whatever the fuck Q-Force is. Did anyone else get, like, bad vibes off that? Was that just me? Like, I don't know about you, but I got bad vibes off that show. Like, executives going, we can milk the queers for money kind of vibes. You know, I'm just gonna go back to watching She-Ra. She-Ra was good. So let me see if I've got these facts right. Turf trash and biggest childhood disappointment since I found out the Goblin King wouldn't whisk me away to Labyrinth if I wished it, gets roasted by what appears to be a cis man. Then uses that as a springboard to proclaim that she was right all along. Look, honey, I get that you're trying to stay relevant, because your core audience has aged out of those books. And let's be brutally honest, they weren't written very well. But this ain't it. I can guarantee you that most of those roasts that you got were from cishet men. Because trans people just want to live their lives. Lives that you devalue. Because you're turf trash. Side note, you are not helping women by doing this. Standing up for women means standing up for all women. Because trans women are women. Instead of using your vast wealth and platform to further more hate, try doing something useful with it. That is an excellent question. I just don't know if I can think of any time she mentioned anti-trans rhetoric. I can't for the life of me find a single example at all in her manifesto or her tweets where she comes off as anti-trans, or how her behavior affects and upsets the people associated with her. It's really hard to use a simple Google search.
Because she hasn't been relevant in several weeks, turf trash childhood disappointment J.K. Rowling is up at her bullshit again. What bullshit? Well, it turns out in some areas of the UK Police Department, they're going to start logging in certain activities of criminals as being done by women if the attackers identify as women. So the bitch decides to quote 1984. Let me clue you in a little fact. That whole thing is specifically about vagueness and ignorance. Two things that you're definitely working with. This is the reaction to a lot of J.K. Rowling's turf tweets. Lucky for all of us, Hermione's on the case. Look, sweetie, I know you can't stand not being relevant for, like, a solid minute, but you gotta stop. Because at this point, more people hate you than love you.
No, the only reason Anne Rice is being talked about is we're celebrating the fact that fanfiction writers are free now.
Oh, it's okay, babies. Mama's gonna teach you. So, when Interview with the Vampire came out, people were in love with Louis and Stat's relationship. So much so that they started writing fanfiction about it. Well, our lovely vampire queen found out about it. And let's just say lawyers got involved. Heavily involved. She started going after every single person that wrote fanfiction about her characters. Legally suing them. Ever wonder why some fanfiction has a disclaimer that says, "I do not own this property or these characters"? Anne Rice is why. Not only that, but she would read the fanfiction and then write stories using that fanfiction without crediting the original author. So she was also a terrible hypocrite as well. So when I joke that fanfiction writers are free now that she's dead, it wasn't really a joke. No. Protection of your intellectual properties is fine and dandy, but the way that Anne Rice went about it was fucking bullshit. She got lawyers involved and she actively attacked anyone that wrote fanfiction about her characters. Not only that, she doxed people that went after her characters. That's not okay. She was actively a bitch and a cunt about it. And she went on these sites and read fanfiction about her characters, then used that fanfiction as published works, then went after the authors of that fanfiction and tried to sue them for using the fanfiction. So she's also a fucking hypocrite. So she does not deserve any fucking respect. Not only that, later in life she became a crazy fucking Christian and ended up hating her own original works. She also made the owner of a Popeyes miserable. Go Google that story. In short, she was a terrible fucking person who doesn't deserve any respect. She had nothing to do with that. If you read the book, that character looks like a 15-year-old ginger. The studio refused to hire someone like that, so they cast Antonio Banderas because he was popular at the time because of Zorro. Don't give her credit for that. No, it doesn't. Because the character in the book and the character in the movie are not the same character. The character in the book was a 15-year-old looking, emotionally manipulative, horrible piece of shit that did everything in his power to keep Louis connected to him in every single way, including sexually. The character in the movie ran a kooky trope of vampires and was Antonio Banderas. They literally cut all of the problematic shit out of the character. So the character is in name only. That's not an adaptation of a character. So it's not the same fucking thing. So Anne Rice deserves zero credit for that shit. Okay, but here's it from my perspective. Consider the movie Mary Poppins. The books were written by P.L. Travers, and it took her forever to give Disney the permission to make that movie. And when they finally did, she hated it. 100% hated it. But they were still her characters. The problem is that Disney basically took everything about the characters and only used them in name. Which is basically what the production of Interview with the Vampire did with the character Armand. They took out all of the problematic shit of that character. The fact that he was a permanent, 14-year-old ginger kid. The fact that he was emotionally, physically, and sexually manipulative to Louis. The fact that he constantly tried to manipulate Louis into a sexual relationship. The fact that, he used his, trope on stage to eat people alive in front of people for entertainment. All of that shit, the studio cut out and replaced it with hot as fuck Antonio Banderas. is the same fucking thing. The only reason it's different is because Anne Rice brought lawyers in and was a cunt about it, demanding that stay, you know, her name on it. She hated the fucking movie too, just like P.L. Travers. But you know what she didn't hate? The money. She didn't fucking hate the money. So it's the same fucking thing. It's not the same character, it's barely a cookie cutter of that character. So I appreciate that comment from before, but what I'm saying is the book character and the movie character are not the same person. I think at that point we get into the whole separation of art versus artist, which we can delve into, but that's not really a thing on this discussion. Interview with the Vampire is a decent book. That's it. Anne Rice was a shitty person. That's it. There are shitty people that have decent works of art. And true, without them, those pieces of art wouldn't exist. As an example, I'm a big fan of Lovecraft. However, H.P. Lovecraft has been dead for years. He doesn't benefit off of my enjoyment of his stories. That's it. The original comment was that without Anne Rice, there wouldn't be Antonio Banderas as Armand. My counter-argument was that Anne Rice had nothing to do with Antonio Banderas being cast. That's all. See, and here I thought people weren't learning anything. Thank you for proving my point.